And the parable is of a woman. A lot of people may have heard the phrase, let he without sin throw the first stone. Let's talk about that story for a second. In that story, there is a woman who, and excuse me if I get like some of these small details a little bit off for generous interpretation, but I'm getting the gist of it here for you all. She was not allowed to be granted a divorce from her husband. Her husband refused to grant her a divorce, and at that time, if that happened, he had control, and that was that. And so, but for all intents and purposes, they were not really together. And there were also the Pharisees at this time, which were kind of very strong. They were strong religious / political-esque. And many of these Pharisees were in a physical relationship with this woman. Now, let's be really clear about the power dynamic here. When you have several powerful people doing this, it frankly really blurs the lines of consent. At one point, one of the Pharisees is caught with the woman, and she is immediately marched out into the town square. Everyone is starting to surround the woman, and they're trying to figure out, wow, we caught her with one of the Pharisees, how evil, etc. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do with her. Are we going to stone her, or etc. Of course, the Pharisees doesn't really seem to be subject to any sort of similar treatment that she is, even though he was just as complicit. And if anything, he was the one that was abusing power and public trust. And then they say, okay, there's this, basically, Christ has, Christ has taken interest in what's going on. They call him over. He comes over and everyone starts putting their attention to him on what to do. And he starts drawing in the sand, something in the sand, and people come out and they start to see that he has here written down, let he without sin cast the first stone. He was talking about the Pharisees. He wasn't talking about her. And sometimes people interpret this story as implying that she was a sinner and everyone else is a sinner as well. And so sinners can't really judge sinners, like everybody just, kind of relax. But really, I think there's deeper meaning to that story. And because he essentially says to her, go forth. And he doesn't condemn her. The people that did something wrong there were those who were abusing their power. There are a lot of Pharisees, those kinds of types running around today, trying to abuse women, trying to take their autonomy away, and all in the name of a book that they haven't really studied that closely. I believe in a separation of church and state. I believe that my faith, whether I have it or not, has nothing to do with my public service. Because we have a secular democracy. And for someone who says, go forth and sin no more, do you think he was, I see that there's a comment here saying, oh, he was talking to her. Was he? Was he? It's commonly interpreted. But read it again. Read it again. We have a secular democracy for a reason. Because having our democracy be secular is what helps us be a democracy. If it's not secular, it's a theocracy. My faith has shaped my sense of morality. It has shaped my identity and my upbringing, but I do not impose my faith on others. I just think that right now is a time that's just really, really important, and really acknowledging that the fascist white supremacist movement in the United States is building a war infrastructure. There was a goddamn insurrection on the Capitol of the United States led by white supremacists. 7 people died. They tried to interrupt the peaceful transition of power in the United States, and it was just a test run. We need to really understand the severity of what is happening right now. That is white supremacist and fascist in nature. They have a theory of change. They do not believe in democracy. They believe in violence in order to attain their political ends. This is not crazy conspiracy stuff. It's not. You see the way that at what happened on January 6th. They all showed up in flags, and they all showed up with flags and with names and this, that, and the other. Because I know plenty of people who have even had mental crises or have struggled in their mental illness. When they have a crisis or when they have an issue, their motivation isn't to go out and racially target Black and brown people for murder. That's not mental illness. That's white supremacy. And I just think that we have to understand that we have crossed a threshold. And this is organized. This is organized. He cites Tucker. These people have cited Tucker Carlson. They cited Ben Shapiro. They cited Candace Owens as justification for their murders. I'm tired of this equating, the left and the right are just as violent. No, they're not. The vast majority of domestic terrorism in the United States is funded by white supremacist organizations. They've got Ted Cruz and PowerPoints about how they're going to overturn United States democracy. This is what is happening right now. I think it's really important for us to have eyes on what happened with Shireen Abu Akleh in Palestine. She was killed by Israeli forces. We can't allow this stuff to be happening with our resources. Like a lot of times people say, a lot of times people say like you're treating this differently, and you're picking them out and treating them differently. Our tax dollars are a part of this. Our resources are a part of this. We can't even get health care in the United States, and we're funding this. And a lot of times people try to make it seem like you don't understand what's going on, or they try to make it seem as though, believing that Palestinians are human beings that deserve human rights is like somehow inherently anti-Semitic. It's not. And it's insulting, I believe, to the actual profound amount of anti-Semitism that our Jewish brothers and sisters are confronting right now. And that doesn't mean that you don't believe in Israeli people being safe, but we can't believe in Palestinians being safe too. This is out of control. I had some happy news as well, despite all of that. I was engaged. I got engaged, so I'm very happy to share that news. And I mean, someone said, AOC, you're such a radical on everything, most of which aren't backed by anything but personal opinion. Like, really? Am I that radical? Is it like, that's the thing that's so crazy. It's like, you want to know the power of propaganda? The power of propaganda is that we believe that thinking everyone should have health care is a radical leftist position. That's the power of propaganda, that we believe that, you know, having the right to a union, and that, maybe if you're a billionaire of a company, maybe the workers who create the billions of dollars that you enjoy, maybe they shouldn't have to sleep in a car. Maybe they should afford, to be able to live in an apartment. Radical me, right? Because I don't think that kids should be in cages. I think everyone deserves health care. I think housing is a right. I don't think that that huge major Wall Street companies should be able to gobble up homes and then working class people can't afford them. Radical me. I also thought that I was maybe very marginal or fringe. Turns out there's enough people who agree with me that elected me to Congress. And not just elected me to Congress, but I didn't have to take a dime of corporate money. I didn't have to take a dime of lobbyist money. We can take that, you can take that to the test. Maybe I'm so fringe and I'm so this, that, and the other, but there's enough people who agree with me that gave me the blessing of becoming the youngest woman ever elected to the United States Congress. And you know what? I will flex on that, because it's not me who did it. It was you who did it. It was everyday people who did it, who wanted to see those views represented. I happen to represent them now. But I also have faith that even if it wasn't me, someone would.